Okay, good evening everyone, and bonsoir à tous et à toutes, and welcome to tonight's presentation of OTF Connects, titled Learning and Teaching Early Math with Learning Trajectories. And for the moment, Ed, you can still leave your microphone off if you just want to click on your talk button, and I'll invite you in a second. So Ed is the facilitator for tonight's presentation, and he's prepared something really fantastic for you guys. You're going to see it looks really, really interesting. And we actually have a very large group tonight, and that's also a testimony to the interest of the subject, I believe. Please don't hesitate to intervene and to share your ideas and to post them in the chat box along the presentation. And I'm also going to say a quick word in French et souhaiter la bienvenue à nos collègues franco-ontariens. La session est en anglais, la majorité de nos sessions sont en anglais, mais si vous désirez obtenir des informations en français, surtout n'hésitez pas à me contacter par la suite. We are definitely thrilled to have each and every one of you with us tonight. It's also an absolute pleasure to welcome Edward Schroeter. Edward Schroeter is a reading specialist. He's also a kindergarten specialist with special education and French as a second language. Ed was trained and worked as a newspaper reporter and documentary video producer before entering the teaching profession. He's also, I should mention, a four-time National Award-winning playwright and former producer of historical theater for young audiences. During the last 25 years, he has taught grade 4, core French, French immersion, and kindergarten for the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board. He's currently working as a kindergarten teacher. His current interest is improving the geometry and spatial reasoning components of his math program through the use of Clemens and Samara's professional development tool, Mathematics Learning Trajectories. So it's Ed's first participation in our OTF Connects program with a subject that has obviously attracted a lot of attention. We have a very big group tonight, and I think we are all in for a really great session. So let's jump right in. At this point, I'll pass the microphone to Ed. Ed, please feel free to now click on your talk button, and you can actually now start your presentation. Thank you.
Well, I'm very excited to be here tonight, Michelle, and to introduce everyone here to Learning Trajectories, and particularly learningtrajectories.org. I love this web tool created by Clemens and Sarah. Bear in mind, it's not a quick fix. Yes, there are lots of great takeaway activities in it for your classroom, but we're going to work through this a little bit tonight, and at its heart, it's a professional development tool for educators and parents. And the more time you spend with this tool, the more math you will learn, and the more you will learn about how children learn math. So tonight, I hope to get everyone signed up for this web tool, and also a community of practice support site that we've created. I hope we'll have a little bit of fun exploring the tool, and I hope we're going to get to use the tool, that's my plan, to assess and do some programming for a 4-year-old student in the shapes geometry trajectory. So it's a bit ambitious, but I think we can do it, and with your help and participation, I think we're going to have a great time tonight. It's going to be very interesting. So I've outlined some goals or an outline for tonight, and I've basically just talked through those. I'd like to know a little bit about all of you. So if you could all use one of the icons, a smiley face or a check mark. Yes, I see you're all ready. That's great, because I'm curious to know what grades you're currently teaching. Oh, we have some others. That's really interesting. Well, I see a lot of JK, SK, combined JK, SK classes, some grade 1s. Oh, okay, occasional teachers. Wow. Melanie, that's amazing. I have to give you credit for being an occasional teacher. A lot of JK, SK teachers, grade 1s, 2s. Good, good. Okay, This will help me a little bit too. Oh, we have an RECE. We have, oh, that's fantastic. Okay. Oh, teaching candidate, emergency supply teachers. We have a lot of great experience in the classroom. I'm going to move on to the next slide now. That gives me a great sense. And I'm just wondering how long everyone's teaching. I've got some categories here. You could use a little web icon to just put, there's someone here with more teaching experience than me. I didn't think that was possible. A lot of great years of experience in the room, lots of good energy. Yes, I know that, oh, we've got a few RECEs in the classroom tonight. That's fantastic. Ruth, you've been teaching 30 years. Amazing. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. I hope I'm not going too fast for you. If I am, just put a little note in there. Michelle mentioned that I was a former newspaper reporter, and I've done some theater for young audiences. I don't feel like I'm a presenter, but I stumbled across this math web tool when I was working on a teacher learning and leadership project with 10 other, well, 5 teachers and 5 RECs, 5 early childhood educators, and we are studying spatial reasoning in the classroom. But this tool is quite amazing, and I've had a bit of dialogue with one of the creators, Doug Clements, and I really feel like it's worthwhile bringing this tool to your attention and trying to get people engaged with it. I feel like I'm not a math person. I feel I'm pretty spatially and mathematically challenged, but this tool is helping me so much. Michelle's going to send you a link maybe a little bit later, maybe now. You can read about my partnership with my RECE and how we began our first attempts at using this trajectory. The link it's not active right now on this slide, Let's Get Acquainted, but I can assure you that at some point you'll have that link and you'll be able to read it later at your leisure. So I'm looking to see now if there's any specific goals you have or any interest you have. You may be content to just ride this through with me, but if there's something specific, please speak up now if there's something on your mind. Yes, okay. No specific goals. Wanting to use the site. Oh boy, you are a great group tonight. You have lots of goals. I think I can accommodate all of you. I think you'll get your start in the site. You'll see where there's some resources that are right available for you, and you'll learn more about learning trajectories. Okay, I'm going to move on. I know you're still adding. That's great. There's so much excitement about this topic. What I'd like to do now is take a minute or two. I'd like to get you registered on TeachOntario if you aren't already. I think Michael's going to put up a link for you. You have to use your school board address, though, to get on. It's limited to Ontario teachers. Once we get on, if you could maybe either drop a check mark on there or give us a smiley face, because on this site, my spatial inquiry group has a spatial reasoning site full of resources. I have a learning trajectory site. It's like a community of practice, and we can support each other there. So if we all log in, make a teacher account, log in, and then in the next slide I'll show you about how to join these two sites, probably by following me or the site. Then you have access to resources which we're continuing to add to, and you can begin to add to these resources. So let's take a minute now. It is .ca. I'm sorry, that's an error on the slide. Thank you for pointing that out, Melanie. It's www.teachontario.ca. So if you'll have to create a user account. Oh, sorry, Michael, I see you put the link up. Yes, you do need to, Chris, do you need to register? Yes. So there's a little note there, don't have an account, and you have to use a school board address. So yes, register please. Oh, I see people are, I think they registered. No, I'm going to wait for another minute or so and see if I see a few check marks and some smiley faces happening. All right, now it's not absolutely necessary that you get in tonight. I just want to make sure that everyone has these available to you. When you get into the site in teachontario.ca, there are 2 support groups that I'd like you to join. You don't have to do it right now, and I think that there are these links. I know they're in the resource section at the end, so you could do that later. But the top one is this Learning and Teaching Early Math, this Learning Trajectories, and sorry, I was just looking at Heather's notice here. These sites provide all these resources, and it's set up as a bit of a community of practice so that we could work together and help each other out remotely. And the bottom one is more specifically directed to spatial reasoning and geometry trajectories. Yeah, okay, I'm glad that helps a little bit, Heather. You can take a little bit more time. I've got some videos that we're going to look at. Many of them are on the Teach Ontario site, but I've also provided YouTube links because I know myself sometimes, creating new accounts and logging in takes a bit of time. So some people do it so effortlessly. All right. So I'm wondering what people know about learning trajectories. I've made this simple chart there. You could drop an icon, a check mark, a happy face on what you know. This will again help me tailor the presentation a little bit. So I'm just waiting to see. We have some experienced people tonight that are using them already. That's great. You'll probably be able to add quite a lot to the conversation tonight, and I'm really pleased that you might be able to do that. Okay. Definitely a lot of interest in this. I'll wait another couple of, maybe 10 seconds, and then I'll move on a little bit. It's very helpful. All right, so thank you for that. That's good for me to know. Now, you don't have to read this slide, but I just wanted to say that the learning trajectories are not the only developmental continua that are available. I know last year for OTF Connects, Matthew Aldridge did great webinar on developmental continua. Maybe some of you could just type in the chat box or make a note of other ones you've heard of. Have you heard of any other types of trajectories, people? There's Fosno has them, Lynn McGarvey at the University of Alberta. So there's a number of, Fosno boxes. So Clements and Cerama are not the only people doing this. But I like them best because they have a professional development component, and that helps me learn more about math and how children think about math. Plus, they have this support website. You can see the picture, the image of the book. I did a book review for ETFO. It's like 350 pages, and it's incredibly comprehensive, and it's an amazing resource. But I know teachers, if you have family, young family, or if you're doing elder care or just your busy lives, it takes a while to work through that. It is maybe the book that I wish I'd had in my pre-service teaching years, but I didn't. It wasn't available then. So this professional development component I find incredibly useful. So it's a web tool supported by a couple of foundations, and so it's free. They break the math down into bite-sized pieces of learning. They have video clips of children doing math activities, which I find also incredibly helpful. It's one thing to read about what children can do. I find that very helpful, but sometimes it's really wonderful to look at what children are doing, and that's another benefit. You are also invited by the creators of this site to contribute videos of your students. They have special permission forms and so on that you can access. If you're using the site, they may contact you and ask about that. And so here is just a little image. You can see there are hundreds of tested classroom activity ideas to support children in each of the developmental levels of all of the learning trajectories. So you may be looking at the SHAPE learning trajectory, and it runs from birth to age 8, and there are activities, downloadable resources for you. The site is still developing, so in some cases there's not much there. That's one of the downfalls of the site. It's new, 2017, and they're continuing to add. But there are some workarounds for that as well. There are other resources that you can bring to pair with what you're using on the site. So I think we should just review what a learning trajectory is. And there's Michael's going to provide a link to a short video. This is one of the co-creators, Dr. Julie Cerama, who's going to just speak briefly about what a learning trajectory is. So take a minute or so to look at that, please. So Heather, if you go back up in the chat box, I would go to the YouTube link. The TeachOntario link won't work unless you're registered and in the site. So use the first link, and I think you can click on it, or you could copy and paste it into a window in your browser. Does that help? Okay, I'm beginning to see some green check marks and some comments done. That's great. And just remember, this will all be on the OTF site tomorrow. These videos are going to stay up there, so many of them are actually in the learningtrajectories.com site. I've just extracted them for tonight to make it a little bit easier for you. Okay, Hannah. I'll probably do that at the very end if that's okay. All right. I'm going to move on a little bit now. I'd like you to now take another 3 minutes and 15 seconds and cut and paste this link into your browser. Doug Clements here will give you a little more information about the Learning Trajectories site and its power as a professional development tool. When I first looked at the site, I thought, oh, this is just great. I can pull out these activities and I can watch these videos. Great. But there's a little bit more to it as well that I'd like you to be aware of, just for your own information. And again, it's probably easiest to use the Vimeo link. see a few people are just beginning to finish watching the video. I have a question for you all. Do you feel adequately prepared for teaching math? Do you feel like you've mastered true learning trajectories, math trajectories in detail? Can we maybe see some little thumbs up or thumbs down if you're feeling absolutely confident about your training for math? Or a comment in the chat box. I think I'm with you, Melanie. Yes, I agree. I need to learn more too. See, you've got a thumbs down from Marnie, unprepared. I think my math training in comme ci, comme ça. Ah oui, je suis d'accord aussi. Yes, yeah, I agree with Carolyn. There's always lots more. So, I think we should get to it. Still learning? Well, I think is it Kim that was saying self-taught? But no. I think if you're self-taught, trial and error is a very good way to learn. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, I think, but I think the learning lasts. So when you're self-taught, you try it out. It's really good if you can work with a colleague as well, because then you can sort of test things out and talk to each other and debrief. All right. I think these are some of the feelings and some of the reasons why Clements and Serema developed this site. They actually used it and tested it with groups of teachers, mostly in the United States, and they offered this site as part of their professional development. So they would have some of their postdocs go into schools from 1 to 3 years over a period of time, and as part of the working together, the professional learning community, they were accessing this tool, and then they thought, well, let's open it up for more people. I want to look at, when we look at learning trajectories, I want to look at it through a geometry and spatial reasoning lens, because this is, I think, an area that many of us, well, I feel uncomfortable about. I don't have a lot of knowledge in this area. This is an amazing report. We don't have time to talk about it too much tonight, but it's from 2009, and it's mathematics learning in early childhood, and it really talks about the importance of geometry and spatial reasoning in early childhood education. I'm going to just ask you to guess. On page 21, you can pick A, B, C, D, or E. What does the report say about preschool and kindergarten spatial reasoning and geometry? So you can use the tool up at the top of the screen. I'm just curious to see what you all think. You're just probably guessing, but I think you're very intelligent people, so you're going to be right on the money, I think.
Please use the tool that looks like a little letter A, the fourth icon under your name.
Well, I see there's great idea to use the check mark as well. So you put the check mark icon or a happy face, that works too. Excellent. Oh, people want to say A and B. I see some E's. Well, in fact, decades of research say that E is the answer. I may have jumped the gun a little bit there. I'm sorry about that, but no, they're saying that kindergarten math should be focused on numbers, sense, and operations, geometry and spatial skills, and maybe a little bit of measurement thrown in. It's not what I'm used to. I was trained to teach in 5 strands, and then later came to kindergarten. So, is anybody surprised? Were you surprised? Will you maybe type in a comment? Yeah, the answer is E, all of the above. Yeah. Yes, I agree that we in many ways we do all of these things daily. Some people are not surprised. Some people, I think in kindergarten, especially in these younger grades, I'm not sure about those of you that are teaching up in grade 1 and grade 2, but we definitely really focus on number sense and numeration, and less so perhaps than we should on spatial reasoning and geometry. So their research by Clements and Saram here on this slide, geometry and spatial reasoning supports the development of a variety of numerical abilities. Can you guess now? Which of these 4, or letter E, all of the above, which are supported by geometry and spatial reasoning? You could use the little A icon up at the top of the screen and give us a letter. You could put a check mark icon or a happy face on the slide. I'm agreeing with Hannah here. I like her comment. Geometry and spatial sense is so important. Yeah, if you're putting your check mark on all of the above or selecting E, you've got it. And I was completely surprised. I remember a staff meeting in 2014 where the vice principal came up, kind of fixed the kindergarten teachers, fixed us in the eye, and said, did you know that preschool and kindergarten math skills predict reading success more accurately than early reading skills? I've never forgotten that. And then when you look into spatial reasoning, and you begin to think about reading and many other life skills, giving directions, mapping, coding, all of these things, measurement, very spatial. And the spatial skills also give children access to math where they don't need a lot of vocabulary. So you can begin to name their learning. You can introduce the vocabulary. You begin to ask them to use the vocabulary. They can show you and demonstrate in terms of explaining, and then again, you can begin to challenge their learning and extend it. So I'm just going to quickly tell you here, early math research suggests that geometric knowledge is highly related to, again, it's all of the above. It's related to math reasoning, proportional reasoning, problem solving, concepts, properties, data management, processing skills. Spatial reasoning and geometry, to me, underpin so much of mathematics. And so I'm just going to quickly ask you, how much do you do you feel you know about geometry and spatial reasoning with these children, age 3 to 8, in that age group? And again, I made it easy here. I've got, I mean, you can add your own comments. You can put an arrow or a check mark or an exclamation mark or a smiley face. And we have some, again, very experienced teachers here who are using this. If you'd like to put a comment in the chat box about integrating information into your teaching and some things you're doing these days, or where you're heading in terms of your own professional learning, that would be also wonderful. Yeah. I see Caroline and Kim are talking about the challenge of counting. Counting is a very incredibly involved process. I mean, you have to learn the number of words. You have to learn that each word corresponds with a separate quantity. You have to realize that quantities, like, they don't change, that the order is the same. It's very involved. All right. I see Hannah is a little bit ahead of me. She's talking about the Taking Shape book, and I would also urge you or encourage you to use that Taking Shape book. It has 32 or 36 activities. I've got a little slide for that later, but it's for K-2, and those are things that you can implement immediately and test out. It's a much faster way to get into doing these things, I think, than the Learning Trajectories. The Learning Trajectories is a very good assessment tool as well, and a very good professional development tool. It does have lots of activities, but the Taking Shape book, you can almost pick a grade level, open it up, in an area, and begin to use it. Oh, sorry about that. All right, so I'd like to, I think a lot of us are a little bit short on information on geometry and spatial reasoning. So before we're getting to the point where we're going to go into the site, learningtrajectories.org. I'd like you to take a couple minutes, 4 minutes, and watch a little video. There'll be another video just after this. And this is on spatial reasoning. This particular video, you can see on the left, the image is Lightbot, which you can find in ABC Yeah, or there are many apps for it. And right is Coding Mouse. So I'd like to watch this little video on spatial orientation and perspective taking. It's really focused on giving directions, coding, that kind of thing. But I think it'll help us as we move ahead into the learningtrajectories.org site. So I think there's a link going to come up. Well, I see quite a few people are back. Now, I had another video here lined up, but I think I'm going to just skip over it. It's again about spatial visualization, but you'll, if you're interested, you'll be able to watch it tomorrow at your leisure or at another time. So now here, I'm going to ask everyone to open another browser window and go to www.learningtrajectories.org and sign in. Well, create a new account basically. Here you can use any email address you want and a password. I've put up there's a link that Michelle has put up. It's just a silent screencast of me making a login and a password. So, like, it would be very helpful if you could make an account now so you can get in and look at the site when we do some scavenger hunt activities and begin to work through a little bit of assessing of a student and finding a trajectory. But you know, if you're busy, at least you've got the screencast that you could watch. So I'm not sure how long this is going to take everyone. Again, it depends. Some people are very proficient at this, and some people like me are a little bit slow. But again, I'll ask you to do that, and then give us a green check mark or a thumbs up when you've actually created an account and you're into the site, and then come back to Blackboard and check in.
Did you want me to put a timer for a few minutes?
I think that's a good idea. If you could do that, that would be wonderful, Michelle. Thank you. Okay. If you're in learning, oh, there's a spelling mistake. LearningTrajectories.org, so it's LearningTrajectoriesies.org. I'd like you to try and create a class now. Again, I've got a link for a little video on how to, but I think it's just, if you go to the top of the screen, beside the LT2, LT squared, little red, you can see it on the slide, and you can create a class, and definitely add yourself to the class, because that gives you access to a number of the embedded video resources, and it lets you be able to search some of the resources more easily. Yeah, Hannah thinks you've picked up the typo on the link. It's LearningTrajectoriesIES.org. Well, it looks like a few people are having a little trouble creating a class, and I don't know if that's because of heavy use on the server. Oh, Megan has a great idea. First of all, make sure that you created that you've logged in, and then Megan was saying to refresh your screen. And a few people are having trouble. Oh, someone had to switch from Chrome to Explorer and then it worked. Okay, that's interesting. I've been using Explorer. Sorry, I've been using Chrome, and I've had no trouble. Oh, I see. And maybe you'd have to verify your account as well. Okay, the tech geniuses have figured it out. They're getting a confirmation email, which you have to go to, and then click on that, and then they had to log out, and log back in again, and then it worked. What would I do without you all? Thank you very much. I'm going to skip over this slide. Later, when you're interested, you can take a look at it. It's good because it does talk about the professional development component. And also, I asked Doug to make this for me, and he did. You can email him, and he answers. I don't know when he sleeps. He and his wife Julie are quite amazing. And very giving and generous. I've got another video that I'd like you to look at, but I think we're going to look at it a little bit later. I just want to reference it. I know Michelle is putting up the links, but I feel like we need to move on a little bit and get into the site a little bit more. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is, I'm hoping you're all logged into the site, and we can do a little scavenger hunt. We're going to definitely use the little icon under the talk and video button, and I want people to take a look and see if you can tell us how many mass strands are currently covered in LT squared. You have your choice of A, B, C, D, and E. When you're ready, you can use the little A icon above, like I said, the talk or below the talk and video button, or you could drop a check mark icon on the screen as well, or make a note in the chat box. How many mass strands are currently in LT squared? Oh, the language may be different than what we are using in Ontario. Put an image at the top of the slide so you can try and use that as a landmark to help you. It should be really, once you've logged in, on the opening screen near the top. Yes, most people are in agreement. I made this one fairly easy just to start. So I'm going to do a few more of these little questions just to try and help people get oriented in the site, just to get used to it. So number 2, which of the math strands are most related to spatial reasoning? This is not in the site, but just take a guess here, or make an inference. Again, you have your choice of A, B, C, D, or E. Spatial reasoning is not always obvious. It's not been something, I guess, positional language perhaps. We talk about it in Ontario, but we're beginning to look more and more at spatial reasoning and its importance. So I'm just wondering what you were all thinking. So, Chris, this is not in the site. This is, look at the strands, and what do you think? Where would we find spatial reasoning in the strands here? We'll have to make a deduction or a guess. I think many of your answers can be correct in this. I think of geometry as spatial reasoning as being involved in geometry, but in fact it also underlines number, it underlines measurement. There's aspects of it in operations and algebraic thinking. So I guess that was maybe a little bit of a trick question for you. But you are all smart people, and you are seeing the importance of spatial reasoning. So I'm going to ask if you could scroll down the opening screen and take a look and see how many learning trajectories there are in LT squared. The learning trajectories are developmental levels. So we have the strands, and then there are trajectories, and in each trajectory, there are developmental levels. So you'll see these little boxes. If you want to expand the box to see the developmental levels, you can click on these little green arrows, and it opens it up so it becomes like a little table of developmental levels. But if you have them all minimized with the green arrow, you can begin to quickly count these trajectories. It's almost like a classification question. There are the strands. Each strand has some trajectories, and the trajectories have developmental levels. So, yes, I see some of you are saying B, 17. That's right. That's right. So we've got 4 strands right now, 17 trajectories, and they are, the Clements and Cerama were wanting to add to this too, and they'll do that as they can. There's a little geometry icon. It's one of the strands across the top. I'd like you to click on that geometry icon. And then you may need to scroll down and look and see, count the trajectories in the geometry and spatial reasoning strand. Again, you've got a choice of A, B, C, D, or E. Jean is asking a very interesting question. Do you have to adapt some of the math activities suggested in the website for the kindergartens? in order to integrate the math activities into student inquiries. No, I don't think so, because if you're using scaffolding, right, you're going to begin to do some inquiries. You're going to see that some students need a little bit more support, so you're going to do some small group work. So you're scaffolding for them. Direct instruction in mathematics in small groups, if it's play-based and playful, which most of these activities are an important instructional method. And it's, if you look in the kindergarten document, it's recommended as one of a variety of strategies. So there is sort of play-based, hands-on, free exploration where we're going in and pulling out the learning for them and documenting and finding ways to help them move on. There's large group instruction is also sanctioned and recommended, but also small group playful activities. So I think if you're doing an inquiry, you may find that like students will naturally say to you, I think, oh, I need to do this, but I don't know how. Or you'll see them struggling, and then you can bring the activities in to help them. Some people are looking for the math strands. If you go to the top of the screen, click on developmental progression. I think that will help you. And then you can scroll down a little bit, and you'll see the strands. So if you click on geometry, you may have to use a slider bar on the side of your screen and pull the slider bar down. And what happens when you've clicked on geometry, it automatically expands the trajectories for geometry, and it leaves the other strand boxes minimized. I think Chris has explained it really well. All right, so I see most of you have noticed there's 6 trajectories. We won't have time to get into this tonight, but I have I mapped all of the trajectories and the developmental levels onto the Ontario curriculum and the BC kindergarten curriculum, and it works. All right, I think we'll do one more of these, and then because time's getting very short, I'm going to ask you to just click on the geometry icon again, and let's look at the names of these trajectories. So we know that there's 6. You've got a choice of A, B, C, D, or E. I've made this one. I think it's fairly easy. Yes, yes. And I'm seeing everybody's doing E. Okay. All right. I'd like to get right into the site now and see if we can do a little bit of work with the student. I've got a little video. I've got 2 actually, of one of my JK, my year 1 students, and her name is Eva. I've got the ministry permission form signed. So if we could watch the two videos. The first is 1 minute and 5 seconds. I think the other is also very short. And pay special attention to what she is doing. I know the sound quality is not great, but let's take a look. And maybe we could, again, set a timer, Michael, just for a minute. So as you can see, I've moved on to another slide. I know I'm not seeing a lot of green check marks yet, so people may still be watching that. But I'm hoping we can go on to the next little video. Oh, got a few check marks here. The next video of Ava. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. After that, we can put her on a developmental continuum, a developmental level, and then we can find activities for her that would help her consolidate her skills and move her forward. All right, I see quite a few people have finished watching the video. So I know we don't have much time left, but I'd like people to go to this shapes trajectory, and I'd like you to take a look at it, and then I want you to go back up to the top of the screen, developmental progression, and I'd like you to move down and click on 4 years. It's 4 YRS and geometry. And if you click on 4 years and geometry, what that should do is highlight some typical developmental levels for 4-year-old children. It's not exact, but it is based on 20 years of research by Clements and Serema. So my question here, true or false, when you look at think about the videos of Ava doing her naming and her matching, would you say that the definition of a shape matcher and match is what she does? So to get this definition, you need to go onto the highlighted part of the trajectory, and you can see the first highlighted one, I think, should be shape matcher, more shape, sizes, orientation, combinations. So click on that, and you should see a new screen. And in that screen, you're going to get a definition. You're going to scroll down. There's 3 or 4 videos, and if you keep scrolling down, there's some activities. Sometimes there's 3 or 4, sometimes there's 15 that you can do with your class, with a small group. Sometimes they're individual computer activities that would help consolidate the activities of a student like Ava. Could I get a show of check marks or smiley faces if you're able to see that? So again, you're looking for the shape. You're highlighting age 4 and geometry. You're finding the shape's trajectory, and then you're clicking on shape matcher. Well, Charlotte, you're not seeing that, eh? Do you need to refresh your screen, perhaps? But you have to be along the top, developmental progression, and then age 4, click it so it's yellow, geometry, it'll be grade, and then find shapes, shape matcher, more shapes, sizes and orientations, combinations, and then that should open up a new screen that's dedicated to those issues. Now if we move on to this next screen, if you click below in the shape trajectory, if you click below shape matcher and click on shape recognizer, circles, squares, and triangles, again, we have a definition from that area. So if you click on that in the shape's trajectory, oh yes, someone's saying yes, this is Ava's developmental level. She recognizes circles, some less typical squares and triangles. She may recognize some rectangles, but not rhombuses. She may not distinguish between sides and corners. And again, sometimes your documentation doesn't precisely match the level. You have to make some assumptions. But now that you know, you have a sense of what your student is able to do, you can scroll through some of these and find the match. So if, again, you click on the shape recognizer, you'll get a new page, a new screen that will give you, again, some activities that you can do with this child. And once you're in and using this a little bit, at the top of these screens, you can scroll back and forth. So if you're in Shape Matcher, you can, there's drop-down menus for the whole trajectory, and you can transition. There's some other shortcuts. There's an Activities button that you could click on. In the Shape Recognizer, you should see that there's about 8 activities that you can use with your child, with your students. Okay. Kathleen has asked a very interesting question. Would I aim to continue through until corner angle recognizer? All right. Let me okay. So often I go to the videos and take a look and see what they're doing. So I think your question is, like, I would go up to the next level where I think Ava is going. But yes, you would probably work through a series of these levels with the children over time. Now, they can progress, they can jump levels and move back, they can work on a variety of levels at the same time. So Kathleen, have I answered your question? What I'm thinking is what Ava is missing is she's just beginning to be able to say, like to answer the question, why is this a triangle? Why is this a square? And you can see in the video, you may remember, she's like pointing or tracing her finger around the sides. So I would be looking for something in the developmental level that would help her become a better side recognizer, a better angle recognizer. I'd probably start with sides. And so she can begin to learn the properties of squares, circles, rectangles, that kind of thing. So I would probably, if we're working with Ava as a shape matcher and a shape recognizer, I may have to test a few little activities out with her, but I'd probably slowly work my way up the levels as a new person working with these trajectories. All right. I know we're running out of time, and I'm sorry about that. I just want to make you aware that this site is very powerful. It just it takes a while to work through it and to become. You have to become a little bit conversant with it. They're adding more as we go. I was going to ask you to look at the spatial orientation trajectory, map user coordinate plotter, only because you'll see there's not very much in there. I don't think there's any videos, or there's a few. So that's where I was going to recommend what I think Hannah maybe was suggesting this. There's a book called Taking Shape Activities to Develop Geometric and Spatial Thinking, and I think Michael's maybe going to give a link to that. It's got a chart at the back on maybe page 230 or so, which lists a series of activities, and it levels them by grade, JK, SK, grade 1, grade 2, and it's a phenomenal book. So it fills in some of the gaps, and you'll see perhaps as you're navigating through learningtrajectories.org that there are some activities from Taking Shape used with permission. Now I know we need to have a little bit of time for wrapping up. I have a whirlwind of additional resources to try and support you as you begin your journey with Learning Trajectories and learningtrajectories.org. There's a wonderful webinar by Matthew Oldridge. There's a group of 2 teachers from Simcoe County that recently did one, an OTF Connects in March. There's a user manual for Learning Trajectories that you can download. The sites that I think Hannah was looking for was TeachOntario, Learning and Teaching Early Mathematics with Learning Trajectories. Our group of 11 tweet about spatial reasoning. Our group of 11 have another TeachOntario site. It's Geometry and Spatial Reasoning in Kindergarten. We have a wiki site. My email is there. Feel free to email me and ask me any questions. I'm happy to help. And I just hope that everyone feels that they've had a beginning grounding in Learning Trajectories and the site LT2, and that you're ready to do a little bit of digging deeper on your own or with some colleagues. I want to thank Michelle for this superb moderation tonight and really teaching me and giving me my first start in doing a webinar. And I'd like to thank all of you for your participation tonight, because that's what really makes or breaks these webinars. Remember that I'm always just an email away. Please don't hesitate to contact me.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ed, and we're right on time, actually 2 minutes early, so that's perfect. I must say, for your first session, it was great. You know, it's a very complex subject, and I was a bit worried about the fact that participants had to actually explore on their own, which is a bit more complex than our typical webinars that are more like a presentation. But I think that it worked for most people. They were able to go and explore and see what for themselves what it looks like. I know that some of you had problems, and I would like to apologize about that. And I just want to also remind you all that all the links will be provided tomorrow by email. We're going to send you an email, and there will be one link on that email that will take you to the OTF website. There will be a page on that website, and all the links that Ed has shared with you tonight, and actually even more, will be available tomorrow for you to explore at your leisure. I must say that I was impressed how resourceful you guys were in order to resolve some of the small technical issues like refreshing your screen, your browser, changing browser, etc. So you know, as always, I just want to thank you all for being such incredibly motivated and resourceful participants. I think it was a great session for a first session, and I think, Ed, that this is a subject that we can certainly explore again next season. So I just want to say a few more words, if you give me like another 2 minutes. We have a lot of interesting sessions coming up in the next few days. Actually, we have about 40 sessions in April and May. I won't go over them in details because we don't have the time tonight, but I'm just going to tell you to go on the OTF Connects, on the OTF website, and click on OTF Connects, and then you can find there our calendar, and you can look at all these exciting sessions we have for you guys in the coming weeks. Also want to remind you that there is an opportunity provided by OTF and the Ministry of Education. If you're a qualified teacher and you have completed an additional qualification course in mathematics, technology, or kindergarten, you may be, sorry about that, you may be eligible for a $450 subsidy, and I'm going to paste the link in the chat box if you want to apply for that $450 subsidy. It's still available. We need your feedback. At the end of the presentation, when you quit Blackboard, you will be redirected to a questionnaire, to a feedback questionnaire, and if you could fill it up tonight, that would be great. It takes a few minutes. Once you have completed the questionnaire, you will be redirected to a second page where you can enter your name, and then you will receive a certificate of participation to this training session that you can then add to your professional learning resume. If you can't do that tonight, no worries. Again, that will be part of a follow-up email tomorrow if you want to do that tomorrow rather than tonight. So that's it. Thank you so much for participating with us in that OTF Connect session. And merci beaucoup à tous et à toutes, et encore une fois, bonne soirée. Merci.